Thank you, Danny. Hello, everyone. And thanks so much for attending this second and last session of this training. We're going to spend the first minutes in doing a little bit of a recap of what we saw yesterday before moving on to the modification of the contract. And let's do a little bit of memory and let's review what we saw yesterday. Okay. Sorry, I need to go back. No, it's okay. We saw yesterday that the contract master data management process is supported by three main technical components or platforms. You will work in the dashboard. What is the dashboard? It's a UN intranet tool that provides contract master data management templates to be downloaded and also allows that the templates, once they are completed, they are submitted and then they are reviewed and approved. And as well, the dashboard is the platform that is sending automatic email notifications to the requester of the contract update. Then you will work as well in the template. The template it's an Excel spreadsheet and is used in order to specify the contract line item data to be created and or modified. And lastly, you will also work in SRM, and SRM is the supplier relationship management module in Umoja used in order to manage solicitation and contracts, shopping carts, and POs. In this case, you will log in SRM, search your contract, and then release the contract. Within the dashboard, well, there are some roles that will have the buyers and other role whose name maybe changes that will be assigned to technical specialist. The difference is that the buyers will be able to approve the preload of the data in SRM. Both of them can access to it, follow up the status of each one of the lines, download templates, etc. And lastly, this is the link to access the dashboard. This is the summary of the end-to-end processes for contract creation. Remember, you have the business role, the role that you hold in the organization or in your unit. Then you have the system role, which is the role that the Umoja or the dashboard assigns a name, and then it's the step where the action is described. So you will start by creating a contract header. Remember, the objective was to get a 47 series number, and we extract this number in the SRM component. Who does it? Well, it's the buyer who has the ability, thanks to the role of SA03, to create a contract. The next step, if you remember, and we spent quite a few time on it, is to download the template and work in the template. This is, as we said yesterday, a collaborative work between the buyer and the technical expert. Each one of you will provide a different type of information. And basically, what you will do is to complete the template from the Annex C in the contract and then populate the product ID, but also other data related to the product ID, commercial, and like prices, Incoterm, delivery lead time, and conditions of the price. Once the template is completed and ready to be uploaded in SRM, the next step is to log into the dashboard and upload and submit the contract template that we have completed in the previous steps. So it can be done either by the buyer or the technical expert. Remember here that these are the names of the roles as of today. Then the next step is that the master data management team will receive, acknowledge, and validate the request. They will make sure that the cells are correctly completed. For example, we saw yesterday that they will review if the decimals are put in the correct format and other, and all the data. Also, this is done in the dashboard, and is the dashboard, as we saw yesterday as well, that is sending automatic email notification to the requester in order to let them know that the request has been received. This is the step where I went yesterday to my inbox in Outlook and I opened the email I just received, if you recall. The next step, it's the buyer will approve the request presented by the master data management team. And this is done just before the master data management team imports in SRM the contract. Okay. Lastly, it's again a second approval from the buyer. In this case, the buyer will log into SRM, search for the contract number, edit the contract, put the other mandatory information and such as the supplier, financial rules, and other information, and release the contract. So basically, these are the steps. The buyer controls the process in this step when it's approving the request, and in the last step when it's releasing the contract in SRM. This is how the dashboard looks like. You will need to log in by inserting your email address and your EIDMS password. And in the top right corner of the screen, you will have a button called, named Login. Once you log in, you will see these tabs or maybe others if you have other role, but you need to go to the tab called Contracts. And here we have the link in order to download the template, but also we have the button in order to upload the template. So this is where you will work. The first thing you need to do is, if you remember, is to download the template and click here, Submit. Then you will download the template. Remember, in order to save it in your computer, you need to insert the contract number. That's why the first thing is to get a 47 number. So you will complete this button, contract number, and then the purchasing group. Then you have another area with buttons, which are the operational buttons. Then you have a couple of columns. Basically, we saw yesterday that when it comes to adding new lines, the lines begin with the number 10,000. So don't be surprised about that. Here is the gray area where we have the basic information with regards to the line, such as product ID and product category, currency, supplier product number, target value, unit of measurement, quantity, payment terms, Incoterm location, delivery time, etc. Then you have conditions. Conditions are managed by using another button. So we have the condition type. Remember, the conditions are, let's say, a discrimination of the price depending on either the location or either dates. Okay, so you have the opportunity, if this is the case for the product ID, to indicate it here. And then in brown color, we have the option in order to indicate if the supplier is offering a volume discount. So these are the main areas of the template. As said, in order to complete the template, first is to start by adding the contract number and the PD buyer group at the top of the template. Then you will continue by clicking new line to create the contract line items. If required or if it's needed, then you can use the button duplicate line to copy line items. Remember that when you click duplicate line, you are not duplicating only one line. The window will ask you what is the range of rows that you want to copy. So you can do a massive duplication of lines in one step. Then you can use the button called Change Delivery Information to specify Incoterm, payment terms like 30 days net of the goods received, and delivery lead time for multiple, and you can do it also for multiple lines. You can use another button called Condition Management button in order to create conditions, and then scales, which is what we call it discount for big volumes. Yes, you can enter data manually, but it's always recommended to use the buttons as much as possible. And then please contact the UCS data team when submitting a request with scales. When all entries have been made to the template, save it so it can be submitted. This is a summary of the buttons that you will use in the example of creation of a contract. So you will use this button, new line. Remember yesterday we show you how to insert new lines in different using 3 different examples. We added a new line in the contract by inserting directly the product ID number. We remember it was the mosquito net for this single bed. Then we added another line by using the product category number. Remember in the example yesterday, I chose the category of camping and outdoor activities equipment. And then I also inserted another line, which was a new product ID. So at the same time I was adding the new line of the contract, I was requesting a new product ID. I just invented, it was a mosquito spray. Then you will use as well in the scenarios for creating contracts, this button, as I mentioned previously, which is the change delivery information, is in order to change information such as the Incoterm location, delivery terms, and delivery lead time. Then you will use, if required, the duplicate line, which is to copy existing contract lines and to create new lines. You will use as well condition management to create and update condition lines. You will check for errors, and then you will sort by line number. So you can see, for example, all the conditions that you have applied to the same product ID all together. So it's easier to review, to send by email, and your colleagues will see it more clean. Then once the template in the Excel is completed and validated, considered as final, what you will have to do is to submit it using the dashboard. So in the same tab, instead of downloading the template, in this case, you will browse, you will select it from where it is saved in your computer, and you will click submit. The dashboard will return a message informing you about the reference of the submission, and also you will either if you are in procurement or ICTD or logistics division, the person who submits the request will receive in their email an email notification, as we saw yesterday. Remember. Then the next step, remember, is that, well, our colleagues will validate the request, will examine it, and an email notification is sent to the buyer when it's ready for approval. Remember that this step is only available for the buyers. It's the only difference among the roles is this step. So the email is sent to the buyer, and the buyer needs to approve or reject the proposal for uploading into SRM. So in order to approve, the buyer first needs to review what is going to be imported. There are different options. If there's a big amount of lines, maybe they want to click this button with the letter B to export in Excel to be able to review all the lines. And then if all of them are correct, they can click on approve. By clicking the approve with the mark here with the A in red color, they will be approving all the lines. Okay, if you see here with me in this screenshot, this is the summary of the lines because all of them refer to the same contract number. So once they have, let's say that they have decided to export all the document to Excel, review all the lines, let's imagine are correct, they can click approve, marked here with a red A, and all the lines will be approved. If this is not the case, they can also alternatively choose to review each one of the lines separately and approve or reject the lines. If they spot a mistake and therefore they are going to reject a line, they will have the option to communicate to the master data team explaining why they are rejecting. Following the approval, the UCS data team loads the contract only for those lines that have been approved by PD. And the buyer will receive another email notification informing that the contract request has been loaded into SRM. So once the load has been done in SRM, also they can follow the status in the dashboard of the line items. Here, for example, in this screenshot, it says that one line has been uploaded in Umoja. At this moment, it's when the contract is already available in SRM in saved status, and all what they need to do is to search for the contract, insert the mandatory information with regards to the contract, and click on edit and click on relist. And the contract will be available for use. And here I added some questions that were addressed during the session of yesterday. Sorry. One question was, what is the meaning of the blue lines? And this is my fault. Maybe I did not express myself properly. It's just the format of the table, meaning that once the button here, sort by line item, is clicked, every other line will turn with another mistake, with a light blue background in order to make it easier to read information, meaning that if you see here, we have every other line in red, so it's easier to follow the information. It just means that, okay? Then, okay, another question is if from now onwards, everybody should use the contract master data management tool for all the new contracts. So in the case that you are going to add or modify just a few lines, maybe it makes more sense if the buyer continues with the process as it is now, meaning that maybe it's more efficient and less time consuming to just modify a few lines. Using the tool becomes more efficient compared to the current process when it's about larger contracts and larger information. And lastly, just for you to know that there is a job aid that will be distributed at the end of the day today called Contract Master Data Management. create and modify requests that you can use, and it's a lot. I mean, everything is explained there. This has been the recap of the session yesterday. Danny, I don't know if there are comments on the chat.
Yeah, hi, Lena, thanks. We have several comments related to how the template works, whether some Excel functionalities still are working, like copy and pasting, and some others, including lines, removing lines, deleting lines. So just as we put in the chat, the template is, at the end of the day, a spreadsheet with all Excel functionalities, but it has a lot of macros included. So some functionalities like deleting, that's comes to the top of my mind. I think deleting a particular row may not be available, but for the rest, copy and paste, and even copy by scrolling down, you can do. Then we had questions related on whether the as is process still it's working, meaning that if for whatever reason the buyer decide to avoid using the dashboard and do all the processing in SRM, he or she can he or she do it, of course. The as is process still it's ongoing, but this is just this is a tool that will, the idea is that will make your life a bit easier, especially if you're going to deal with plenty of line items for new contracts, or if you want to modify lots of them. So besides that, no major comments related. I think that the session and the recap, it's well understood, because I don't see like major conceptual type of questions that that they don't understand, or mean the approval process, the workflow, the sequence of steps. Seems that everything is well absorbed. So I don't know if Robert or Gianluca, anyone wants to chip in that, but now I will take over now, and then I will go through the session on modifying the contracts. So yes,
so Daniel,
Robert.
Yeah, sorry, just a very, very quick point. Just to follow up on the comments about the fact that it's an Excel file. You are correct, and you can cut and paste and do all the various Excel functionalities that are available. However, we do recommend as far as possible to use the buttons, because the buttons look after all of the defaulting, the line numbering, all of the other complementary pieces that if you copy and paste, it's kind of easy to forget. So while we fully understand, and this is why the Excel features are still there, we just advise you to use the buttons as much as possible. And when you do use the regular Excel functionality, please be very careful, and please check each line that you've created to make sure it has a proper contract line number on it, and all the other fields that are required are defaulted in. I mean, one of the things, for example, if you've many different product IDs, what you might want to do is create one line using the create button, then use the duplicate to create as many you need, and then go and just paste in the product IDs that you need. Now, things like terms and conditions may well differ on each line, so that sort of thing you need to be careful about. So it's just to say that anytime you do it manually, you need to be extra cautious to make sure that all of the dependent information is specified correctly.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, that was a very good point, because at the end of the day, if you insert manually some of the data, you may interfere in how the template works, and eventually we may have a problem in the load. So yes, that's why we are going to focus a lot in this second part of the session on the different buttons that Elena described in the overview yesterday, but we will go through all the different buttons, so we at least have a good perspective and view on how every functionality works within the template. So thank you, Robert, for that. And we are going to start with the session what we call 2, but basically it's a continuation of what Elena has been going through the past day and 2 days in the recap, because at the end of the day it's using the same template, but in this case what we want to do is we want to show the steps required to process and modify a contract using the tool. So as you can see in the slide, one of the objectives of this session is to extract the contract from SRM. Exactly, this is an extract in Excel that it's from an already existing contract. So you'll see that the contract is already in place and is already active. But what you do is you extract, as per the line items, a file in Excel. And from that Excel, you're going to generate a template from an already existing contract. Okay, that's the second objective of the session. And the third will be to work with the template with all steps. So we will try to go through all the different modifications at the line item level. So you have a good and overall perspective of how the template works if you want to modify or change an already existing contract. Lastly, we will review all the different actions that we have taken into the template. So when we are sure that everything seems to be okay, then we will start, let's say, the workflow process within the dashboard, with approving, with the MDM team validating that everything is okay, and eventually these guys will load a CSV file into SRM, and we will see the contract already modified in SRM in production. At that time, the buyer will release the contract and will make it available again to be used. Then at the end of the session today, we'll discuss some open points and questions that you may have, and we will tell you a little bit the way forward. Basically, Robert will tell you a little bit what are the next steps in terms of using the dashboard, the tool, and what's required from your end in the case that you want to perform and use the template and the dashboard just for testing purposes. And then I think it will be a good idea as well to identify what is the process to be granted with a role in the dashboard, and how you ask for an access in order to generate the templates and start using the dashboard. So that's a little bit the objective for today's session. And it's going to be not so long as yesterday, because you already are familiar with the template, you already are familiar with the dashboard, so it's going to be easier to understand. So as a high-level process, as you can see, we always start with SRM, regardless whether we're going to create a new contract or we want to modify an existing contract. We start with SRM, and we do an extract of the contract from SRM. So that will be the first thing that we do today. Then when that extract is done, we will generate a template using the dashboard. That template will have contract line items, and we will play around with those contract line items and change the conditions, change Incoterms, payment terms, dates, prices, plenty of different things. So you'll see how the template is going to absorb all those changes, and which is the impact within the different lines of the actions that I will do in the template. When we are okay with the different changes and at the line item level in the template, then we will upload the template into the dashboard. So Gianluca's team in Brindisi will review, follow up the request, and validate, and then the buyer will eventually approve all those changes that will be uploaded into SRM with the contract data load eventually. So let's say this is a slide where you can see the whole process from, let's say, 40,000 feet. So, but I think it's important to understand, that basically at the end of the day, as Elena was showing these days, you have 3 components. And let me highlight it. think this one it's okay. So first component, it's SRM, right? Second component, it's the template itself, and then the dashboard. And everything starts and finishes in SRM. Okay, sorry this is a piece of art that I did, but I hope it's understandable now. So that's as per the high-level process. Then we're going to talk a little bit on the roles and the sequence. So we are just zooming in a little bit on the steps and users when we want to modify the contracts. So first, we're going to then extract the line item levels, as we mentioned. So we're going to, in this case, the category manager, contract manager. Those names may eventually change because people were already discussing about which maybe it could be a contract owner, but that's something that we can put aside. But eventually, the category manager or the contract manager will eventually extract the contract at the line item level, will retrieve the template, and then he or she is going to work with the template. Working with a template meaning that we'll make some amendments at the line item level. We'll even block some lines in case that they are not used anymore, and we'll upload that template into the tool. Okay. As you can see, there is a color legend, a color code here. Every time that we're working with a template, it's green. If we are using the dashboard, it's light blue. If we are going to use SRM, it's dark blue, right? So once we upload the template, the status, if you recall well, when we go through the inbox of contracts in the dashboard, automatically the system puts this request of, let's say, amendment of the contract of under process. Okay, so that's the first status that you'll see in the dashboard when you upload the template. And then you'll have an automatic notification in the system. Whoever requested all those amendments will receive this automatic notification. Then MDM team will process the request, will verify that from the technical point of view, everything is okay and there is no problem, and will make the request available for PD, available for the buyer to approve the request. So the status will be waiting PD approval at that time. And there is a notification to all the different parties involved. Then PD approves the request, as you can see always in the dashboard, right? Because it's light blue. As Elena showed to you yesterday, remember when she went through the different line items, in this case, she was creating a new contract, but remember that she added 3 lines. So eventually PD can approve at the line item level and reject the others, or can approve in one shot the whole request. In any case, when he or she, when PD approves, then the status at the dashboard, in the dashboard tool, it's pending load, and that's when MDM team will generate load the data into the system. So when that's done, the status in the dashboard it's uploaded in Umoja, and then PD will, in the system, in SRM, will approve and release the contract to be used again. So as you can see in SRM, we are starting and we are finishing. Then the template is used to do the amendments and do the upload, and then the dashboard to process all requests and approve. So you can see that the dashboard is basically used to get the template and do all the workflow and approval process. So is there any question, Elena, or any comment? No? So I move on. So as Elena did yesterday, a bit of a sequence of steps, and then we zoom in. So we drill down in each of these steps, but do not worry. In 2-3 slides, we will jump into the system and we'll show you. But these presentations were really done in combination with MDM team and Robert, and we wanted you to have a very good perspective of how everything looks in each step of the way. So you have screenshots of all the different steps that you can see in the system. So initially, everything starts with a line extract. So always in SRM, we go to the contract number. So we look up for the contract number, and then we export that contract, and we're going to export the header and the line items. Okay, so we have to locate the contract, review the data as required, and then click on the button export. Then to the ones of you who are not familiar with Umoja, remember that every time, not only for SRM, but when you're working with ECC, or even in BI, every time that you're trying to retrieve data from Umoja as a whole, let's say, regardless the component, the system will ask you to permit the access, because basically you are, let's say, letting the system, the server in Umoja, to access your VDI, your computer, right? Your local drives. So when you export the lines from the server, from let's say from SRM, the server, into your own VDI, because you're going to extract in Excel and place it in your own computer, you will have to permit all access in the system. So and I think that's a good slide, because sometimes, especially when we started to use the system, some people were were not even able to download information from Umoja because they didn't know what to do at this stage. So please click on permit all access, and then you will be able to open or save in your local drive the extract. Then you'll see that the extract looks, I wouldn't say messy, but looks, quite with a lot of information. The initial extract, okay. So that's why we want to use the template, because basically the template, the MDM tool, what is going to do, it's going to change this layout initially coming from SRM into a, let's say, a more readable, user-friendly type of file that is the one that we are going to work with using the template. So as you can see, there's a demo involved. So what I'm going to do now, it's to log in into the system. Okay, so I'm going to go to SRM, and so let me just drag into the screen system. So I'm going to log in into the SRM training environment, and so let me check the credentials because I always forget it. Okay, so copy here. And when I log in, I will look up for a specific contract number, the one that I want to modify at the line item level. Okay, so bear with me for one more minute. Okay. So now I'm going to look for the credentials. You may be familiar already with these credentials because some of you were already involved in the testing phase of this tool. So let's make the assumption that I'm already in production, and I want to modify a particular contract, in this case related to vehicles, to trucks. So I will look up for a specific contract number. So I go to the contract management link in SRM, and I remove the last contract I used, and I'm going to put a 47 already existing contract that I identified. 1, 2, 3, 8, 1. Okay, so that's my contract number. I will apply the filter, and you see that the system found one contract for Renault. That's a supplier trucks. So I will see how the contract looks. And well, this is let's say a simple contract in a way, because I have only 6 line items, right? Also, I have here one product ID as a truck water tank that it's actually an asset, the first one, with the first 2 lines related to an asset because it starts with 21. And then I have here 2 of them related to, 2 lines related to the same product ID, on a piece of equipment, and then spare parts at the end. So as you saw in the presentation, I will export this contract. So I click on export and I open. So you'll see how initially the export works when you are not using the template. So initially you see that there are three tabs: header. So this is information at the header level, right? Then we have here the as an item level, and then another related to the template. So as you can see, I'm not saying that difficult, but you know, it's not so user-friendly as the layout that we have in our template. So first thing I'll do is to save this file into my own computer. Okay, so I will browse. And this is the message that I was mentioning before. If you block the access, you will not be able to download any information from the system. So I'm going to permit the access, and then I will be able to find the path that I want to use. It was MDM contract test. We have here our contract modifications, and we have a folder for SRM and another for templates. So I will put a file name, contract extract session 2, for example, and I'm save it. So I'm saving this. This is as it's already extracted from SRM. So there is no template involved so far. I'm just placing this contract into my own VDI, and then I close it, saved it. So this is how the same contract looks in the system. So now what I'm going to do, if I'm going to the presentation, because I left it here, you see the demo. So I'm going to go now into the dashboard, and from there I'm going to retrieve a template based on this contract extract that I did, okay, that I just did. So let me go to the dashboard. Okay, and then I have to log in. Please, Elena, if there is any question or comment, please feel free to interrupt. Otherwise, I will move on. Okay. Okay. Yes, Elena, over to you.
Yes, Danny, they are asking if you can enlarge the screen.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Elena. Yes. Let me see if I can do it a little bit. You tell me, Elena, how it looks, because you're working with a laptop. So how does it look now?
I think it's good. I can see it. Christina, what do you think?
And that's something that I usually I have to log in twice, always, if I want to log in into the tool. So I log in. And once I log in, I will try to expand a little bit even more. So as you can see from yesterday, this is the same thing that Elena was doing these past days. I go to contracts, and from there I have two options: contract request or upload a contract. Remember that yesterday, Elena, click on contract request. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to upload an already existing contract, right? In any case, just as a tip for you, if I go to contract request now, you see that it says templates, contract request templates. So far, I'm not going to browse in my computer in a contract request template. So that will prevent you to actually browse here and identify the Excel file that I just downloaded. So if I go back and I click in upload contract, that's the other option, you'll see that the system is telling you SRM contract file. So the system is expecting you to browse a contract file coming from SRM. So that will be a kind of like a guide for you not to choose the wrong file. Okay, so I know that I downloaded an SRM extract, so I'm going to browse for it. And it was in O, if I recall well, in my MDM contracts test, modification of contracts in SRM, right? And remember that I put contract extract session 2. You see this, I just at 4:45 Valencia time, I downloaded it. So I select this file and there I submit. Okay, so now the system, what it's doing, it's basically it's retrieving the Excel file that you saw before and then converting all that data into a template. When that's done, I will be able to work in Excel, but using a template with the data coming from the existing contracting vehicles, okay? You'll see how it works. It takes a little bit of time, so let me go back to I'm gonna go back to the presentation. Remember, I click on upload contract. Then I browse my file. Here I put a clock because it takes, well, 1-2 minutes, right? And then, so let me see if I was able to find it. Let me see. Is there? Cannot see it, so let me click on submit again. Doesn't work. Let me log in again just in case. So SRM, I go to browse, select the file, contract extract session 2, open, submit. Okay, now for whatever reason it didn't, I don't know, maybe I lost some connection. The request will be submitted, continue, okay. So now it's waiting for response, so I will expect here a pop-up saying that a file has been created coming from this one, but with a template. You see, MDM template contract line item. This is the version 13. So let me open it. And now I will expect something similar to what we saw yesterday with Elena, something meaning the same layout in the template. And from there, when the Excel opens up, what I will do is I will immediately save this. As you can see, you see that this is the template. It initially looks blank. I will click on enable content first. Okay, you see, automatically I'll see the 6 lines coming from the extract that I did in SRM. So this is data from production now. Yes, Elena, do you have any question?
No, not really. Just if you can enlarge again a little bit without. Okay, this is better.
Thank you, Elena. And now that you're actually mentioning this, I'm going to just, I want to show to you that it's the same information. So you'll see, I hope you can see it, but this is the template on the left part. And on the right part, it's production. Let's say it's the contract itself with the same 6 line items that I can see in the template. So, you know, it's the same thing. So, yes. Elena.
So yes, just to recap, because I think this is important, there was also a question on how the two Excels, the exported one and the template, will integrate to each other. So here we have seen that the dashboard has converted, let's say, what was in SRM split it into different tabs and lines into the template.
Yes, Elena, and now that you're mentioning this, let me actually retrieve the initial extract so you'll see the difference. Let me see. Remember that I put in SRM, remember I use, this is the first, I'm looking for the first extract, okay? It was contract extract session 2. So this is not a template, this is the first extract. I just want you to see which is the difference between these two. So as you can see with this bluish, let's see, header, this is the first extract of the same contract, okay, with three tabs, header, item, and template. And then this extract was through the MDM tool, was converted into this template. Okay, now I think it's more readable, more user-friendly, because basically I have in the first step the instructions that we mentioned yesterday with all the fields related to the master data and the buttons. And in the selection tab, I have here all the imported product IDs, line items from the contract. So I hope it's clear, that part, Elena.
Yes, this is good. And for those of us who doesn't like to work much in Excel, it's good that the dashboard is working on the Excel for us.
Exactly. Yes. Because this extract in the template is much more readable and user-friendly. So this is the template.
Yes, there is one more question. The question is that does the template allow to activate or inactivate the existing lines? And yes, we can. Is there a specific cell for that per line item, or it should be done via the validity dates per line items? So how to activate, inactivate lines?
We'll show you how it works. Basically, in a nutshell, first, when I import these lines, I will be able to modify the lines. If I block, if I block one particular line, that line will become inactivate. It will be inactivated, let's say. The other ones will be active, but will be changed, because the idea is I'm going to block 2 or 3. For whatever reason, let's say there is a couple of product IDs that are not, let's say, decommissioned from the supplier point of view, so I can block, so it will become inactivate. The other ones, I will modify the conditions, I will modify even the product category or the product ID, and those will be active from the template point of view, but then once the PD buyer approves and the MDM team loads into the system, and then the contract is released, then in production, all those lines, all those modified lines will be active. So let me resume with the demo. Remember that this is the template with the line items. I haven't changed, I have not modified anything whatsoever. But it's important, this step, because if we want to start changing at the line item level my contract, I have to first select which lines I want to change, because I might want to change the first 5 and not only all of them, or only one. So the ones that I want to change or modify, I will have to click an X here. You see, select with an X. And every time I put an X, you'll see that the whole background becomes yellow. So I can, as we were saying in Excel, you can drag all the way down to the 5th line. Let's say that the 6th line, this is the spare parts related to lumps. I don't want to change it. So I want to change, or I want to modify only the first 5. So once these first 5 become yellow, I will click here, import selected lines. So let's see what the system does. You see, I clicking on the import selected lines, and now I see something similar of what Elena was working yesterday, right? Now, instead of a blank template, now what I see, it's 5 lines related to the lines that I have imported, okay? So these lines are subject to be modified by myself. But if for whatever reason, let's say that I imported only 5 lines and there is one pending, and I'm changing my mind, you can always go back to the contract, go to contract, you see this button here? You go to contract and you can actually add the pending line that you did not import previously. You see that the first 5 are already like grayed out, so with a gray background. But this one I can input an X now again, becomes yellow. I click again on import selected lines, and now I have my 6 lines included. Okay, so you can always go back and change. If you change your mind, click on go to contract and then import the ones pending. Okay. So this is the situation now at the line item level. This is what I can see even in production right now. So let's start modifying our contract. You know, I have here plenty of slides with different, let's say, points, but I think it's better if we go directly into the demo, okay, instead of going slide by slide, because you have here plenty of information, and you know this is a great presentation, so you can go through and use it as a reference. But I think it's better from the training perspective to go directly into the demo. So yes, Elena.
Danny, do you want to have a short break just before the demo or after? We have been for 1 hour. I just wanted to highlight how useful is that, especially when you are managing a lot of lines, how useful is just to select a subset of those lines that you want to modify, mark them for modification, and then you will see only those lines that you have identified for modification. I think, well, when we have 6 lines, it's easier to see, but I'm sure that when you have hundreds of them, it's much better, this functionality.
Yes, you're right in both ends. You know, in the part of the break and what you have said exactly. You know, sometimes you have a contract with 200 lines, but eventually you want to modify only, let's say, 20 of them. So you will be managing only those 20 instead of the 200 in the template. So thank you for the suggestion. So it's 5:01 Valencia time. So in 5 minutes we will resume with the demo. Remember that we haven't changed anything. The only thing is that we have done so far is to use the initial extract from SRM and, let's say, convert it into a template. And this is what it looks like for the moment. After the break, we will start modifying our template. So thank you very much for your attention. We will be back in 5. Thank you. Okay, so thank you and welcome everyone again to the session. I was discussing with Elena now. We were taking a look at the questions and comments in the chat. So and we are happy to see that there are a lot of interactions and it's very dynamic. So thank you for your comments. There were questions on the status of the contract in the system, whether it changes. Well, eventually, in a nutshell, the status of the contract will change once PD approves in the dashboard all the changes, and for a short period of time between that time and then the load of the CSV file from the MDM team, the contract itself in production will become unavailable. You have all the comments much better explained than myself from Gianluca in the chat, so please take a look at it. So thank you for coordinating that, Elena. From where we left it here in the template with the 6 line items, right? And I want you to drag your attention to large. Yes, thank you. Okay. I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. First, you see that the action becomes defaulted modify. So I imported the lines and automatically the first column here, it says modify. So the system understands that because you have imported 6 lines, somehow you will modify them, right? So automatically the action is modify. Then if you see here in the header, and let me just put it a bit here, the contract number is automatically retrieved from the extract. So it's the 4700012381, but the PD buyer group, it's up to the person working in the template to identify which is the group. So in this case, I'm going to use vehicles, okay? So contract, remember what Elena said yesterday, mandatory when before saving, it's contract number and the PD buyer group. So we are doing the same thing. And we are going to start modifying our contract. First, we'll start changing some PIDs, okay? So if you want to change a PID, basically you have to click on the button, as Robert was saying. You do not, let me cancel, you do not start changing things in the cells here, although you can do it manually. Here I can just type quantity, something different than 1, or I can even put here supplier product number different, but it's better, as Robert was mentioning before, always use the buttons. The buttons will have some, let's say, pop-ups options where you can insert all data and then it will be saved and already the template will be changed accordingly. So let me change the PID. So I click on change PID. First thing I want to see it's Excel row number to change. And I want to, again, drag your attention to row number. So it's not line number, it's the row number, Excel row. So if I want to, let's say, modify or change the PID for the first row, which is row number 4 in my template, I will have to put here number 4. You'll see automatically, if I put here number 4, this is the product ID coming from the template, which is actually an asset. It's 210000456. If the PID has been selected, the product category is not required. Let me just, yes, Elena?
Danny, can you repeat the last sentence as your mic was not working? Just the last one.
Thank you. Thanks, Elena. So remember, I click on the row number 4 because I want to modify the product ID. I click on the number 4. Automatically, the product ID, it's retrieved, which is 2100456, an asset. And here you see in reddish background, if PID has been selected, for the product category is not required. So in this case, the product ID is selected. We have here a product category, a product ID. So, but what I'm going to do here is to change the product ID to another one. Okay, so I'm changing this PID, change PID here. And by changing this PID, I may change the supplier product number as well. So I may change here this information, and even the supplier text. We had before some questions related to this supplier text functionality, whether we could change or amend or even input new supplier text. I don't recall exactly the name of the student, but yes, this is the place where you can input all characters you want. I'm sure there is a maximum number of characters that I do not recall well, but probably Gianluca can tell that in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to change this and just put here, for example, 4 times 4, cabin for 5 people, 13,000 liters, because this is let's say a truck with a water tanker, for example. Okay, so here I have several options. I can change this PID and then add a new PID. On the contrary, I can just change this PID and exit, or I can cancel this action. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change PID and I'm going to exit this window. So what happens now? And let me use Excel here. You see the first row here became block. Instead of modify, here it's blocked. So this one, it's blocked, this line. But at the same time, this line has been created with the product ID finishing in 457, the one I just put it in the window. So this one I'm going to highlight in, let's say, green. So you see, the first one is blocked, but the system has created an extra line with the new product ID I put it in the window. And the action is to create with a new line item. And the different supplier, this is I put here this 400, so this is a change. So I'm going to put here in green, so you see, and I didn't change any of the rest. So the Incoterm is the same, payment terms is the same, Incoterm location the same, and delivery time the same. Okay, so I only changed the product ID here. Okay, let's see another case of changing the product ID. So this one is done. I'm going to click again on the button, change PID. And then I'm going to use this second line, second line, which is row number 5. And instead of, let's say, changing the product ID, I'm going to remove the product ID and then select a product category in this case. Remember that you can modify the product ID from the number itself, or you can just change it to a new product category. Here we have a drop-down list, but you can even insert some information here. So I'm going to put here trucks, because this is related to the truck tractors. You see that the system defaults this one, these truck tractors here. So I'm selecting this product category. But when you select a product category automatically, you have here the information related to the, you have here the 25, 102, 100, which is the product category related to these truck tractors. And this is the description of this product category that you can change. Okay, insert product category line description. You can change the product category line description, and I can put here 4 times 4, for example. Change here to 500, for example, and just put here water tanker 18,000 liters, for example. Change PID and exit. So you see, again, the second row here, 5, has been blocked. So let me put that in red. And then the system creates automatically another line with the same product ID. Different product category, you see 25. So I'm going to put that in green. This is create second line. So you see I created in the first row a new product ID, this one. In the second row, I created, let's say, a new product category with a new description here, truck tractors. So these are the changes I'm doing so far. I'm trying to make it visible with different colors so you understand what I'm doing. Over to you, Elena.
Yes, Danny. Is it possible to enlarge? Oh, okay, now much better. Thank you. This is it.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Elena. So by changing product ID, I have several options. And remember what Elena did yesterday. I can even request a new product ID for this contract. If I go to change PID and then here I put in the product ID field new, remember what Elena was doing yesterday, new, and then we have to select a product category and or the PID description and insert all these fields and then add or change PID and exit, or even request another one in case that you want to create two in the same action. So I'm going to cancel because we did it yesterday. So I just modified 2 lines using this change PID button. Then I can move to another option, which is change delivery info here. Remember that I'm not inserting the data here manually, as our colleagues were mentioning before. I'm going to use the buttons, this functionality. So I'm going to click on change delivery info, and let's see what the system is asking here. So please select the range of lines to be updated. So I can update one or several different lines. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to modify only row number 6, which is line item number 3, 150010-853. So let me take the Excel row number 6 to the Excel row number 6, but I could put here the rest. Imagine that I have here, let's say 150 different lines. I can use here the range of rows here, and then I will change the delivery info for all those different lines, okay? But in this case, as we only have, let's say 6 line items, I'm going to use only 1. And then the Incoterm for this line, you see in the background, it's, you can scroll to your right and you see, is FCA, the Incoterm. So I'm going to change instead of FCA DIP, for example, okay? And with a different Incoterm location than Marseille. Okay, and instead of Marseille, I'm going to use, for example, Valencia port in Spain. So you are inputting the modification directly here in this, let's say, pop-up window, okay? And you can change as well the payment terms, which initially are paid in 30 days, set 012, but you can change in the drop-down. You have all the different options available for you, okay? You can select any of this, and the delivery time as well, which is set up 120 days, and you can change it here, for example, to 100. So remember, for Excel row number 6, we change the Incoterm, we change the Incoterm location, we change the payment terms and the delivery time. So for, let's say, delivery info modifications only in one shot. If you click on change, automatically you see that those changes are already included in the template. So let me highlight all those changes in green so you understand what I did. Okay, hopefully it's clear. The line item has not been blocked, only modified. Remember that the first 2 were blocked because I'm changing the product ID, but the third, I am only modifying this delivery information. More things. I can change conditions as well for the same row or some other rows. So let me click on conditions management and see what's there. Here you select only one line. You cannot select a range of lines. So now you are not selecting a row in Excel, it's the line item. So just I want you to pay attention to that. Sometimes you are asked to change at the row level in Excel here. And you have to be aware of these numbers. And some other times, like in managing conditions, you select the line item level here from 1 to 6. Okay, so let me select line 4, this piece of equipment. Oh, excuse me, instead of line 4, line 5. Okay, this is spare part 1200045753. So the contract line item here will be 5. Load conditions. Okay, here I can only, and the system itself filters by this line. You see that the filter has been applied in the background. And there are no conditions, because if I go in the background to my right side, you see conditions here in this like a light orange color. It's empty. So initially this line item, or even in this contract, there are no conditions included at the line item level. So I can even include new conditions for this particular line. So here you have here the first condition type. So you have here a drop down condition type, and here you can change conditions of the price at the contract bit, discount in percentage or in absolute terms, the price, discount absolute depending on the location as well, discount in percentage on the location, or you can delete a condition. For example, imagine that for wherever there are several conditions applied to this line, and all of them will be visible here in this table. Let's say that one condition is not applicable anymore. I will have to select delete, and from there I will click on apply changes, and that condition will be solved. In our case here, there are no conditions. All of them were blanked in this contract. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert, let's say, a discount in percentage. That's the one I'm selecting for this spare part. So whatever is not applicable, it will be not editable. You see, I'm clicking here in location BP. I cannot change location BP description neither. It's percentage, because it's a discounted percentage. And then here in the amount, you're setting the percentage. I'm going to put 3% of discount, and you're setting the validity in this condition. So from 01/02/2020, and you have to bear in mind this format on the date 01/02/2020 up until 01/02/2021. So let's say that this discount for this particular, let's say, line item, this spare part, will be applicable for 1 year with 3%. So I'm going to apply the changes. Do you see what's happened now? When I use condition management, it's happening here what Elena was mentioning before. The system understands that you're applying a lot of changes. So in order to, let's say, make it easier for you to visualize all those changes, basically the system is giving one color to each of the rows, so you can identify much better or read much better all this table, okay? But obviously all these colors that I was applying before were removed, except this font. You see that the font, it's been there, this green font. So remember that these two first lines were blocked. Let me see if I can change this. Okay, they were blocked. I modify the third line here. Then, because I blocked these first two with a new product ID and product category, two of them were created here. So let me just put in green. Okay. And then I modified line number 5, this one. If I scroll to my right, you see that in the conditions in this light orange table, I set up a discount of the 3% with this validity of time, February 2020 to February 2021. Obviously, as we were saying, you can apply the changes here manually, but it's not. We are not encouraging to do so because you may commit mistakes, and that eventually will take time, and MDM team can actually, let's say, reject those changes because it will not be uploaded correctly in the system. So as condition management, you can. I'm clicking again, so you see different options. I'm going to use another row here. So you can set up different conditions as you deem necessary. And you can even actually, if I select the one that I just changed, low conditions, you see, in contract line 5, I put this 3%, but I can add another condition if I click on a condition line here with another type of discount, let's say, of 4%, for example, for another range of time. So from 02/02/2021 up until, let's say, the end of times, here 31st December 999, then the discount will be, instead of 3%, it will be 4%. So I play the changes, and you'll see here that the spare part, I modified number 5. Here I have one modification. If I'm right, it will be the 3%. If I scroll to my right, you see 3% for this range of time. And then I created now another condition, and in line number 5, as well as this one, okay, spare parts Renault with 4% here with this range of time. So these two conditions for the same line item for the same spare part. Let's say that I'm okay with these changes, but eventually the line number, let me see, 4, if I haven't worked with it, let me see. Okay, so I haven't worked with line 4. What I'm going to do now in line 4, which is this piece of equipment, which is material transport vehicle, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this drop down to block it. So I can block this line, because imagine that the supplier Renault Trucks told us that, you know, this product ID has been decommissioned and it's not, there is no stockage whatsoever, or for security reasons, this spare part is not used anymore. Excuse me, this piece of equipment is not used anymore. So I'm going to block it based on the supplier information. So in the drop down, you click on block. As easy as that. Okay, so you see that there are several actions that I've taken. So let me sort by line. If I go here to the header, if I sort by line, the system will sort by line number here. So it's easier for me to read. Line 1 block, line 2 block, line 3 modified, line 4 blocked, the one that I just blocked, line 5 with 2 conditions, this is spare part, line 6 modified, and 2 different lines related to the first 2 newly created because I changed the product ID. So as you can see, there are several things that I've did, and if I want to make sure that the system understands and it's going to apply all these changes correctly, let me click on check errors. And the system is telling me that, you know, you used the buttons, you didn't do anything wrong, so no major errors detected. So I'm confident that the template is going to work eventually. What I'm going to do now, it's important, and I didn't do it before, is to save this template. Because you see that I haven't saved, even that I was just playing around with the template, I haven't saved it. So let me go to File. And save it. System is telling me no major errors detected. Let me save it in my folder in MDM contract test. Modification of contracts. Now it's a template. You know, I'm breaking down these 2 folders. It's not as coming from SRM, it's a template. So this is template session 2. Save it. So let's say I'm okay with this template already. So I can close it. Okay, and let me close as well this extract. So if I go directly to the, and I'm following, I mean, if Elena, if there is some questions or comments you think that it's still necessary to use, I can go. But let me go back to the this and to the workflow. This is what we did. We extracted the line items. We retrieved the template. We worked in the template. Still, all this process, it's pending, but we already know how this process looks like. We did it yesterday, meaning that now I'm going to upload the templates. MDM will process the request, and then PD will approve the changes. And then the contract will be uploaded and released into the system. Okay, so I'm working now. I'm in this third step, which eventually it's the one that is taking more time because you're working with the line items, you have discussions with colleagues, you may want to escalate some of these discussions to another unit, you may want to work with procurement or some other, let's say, peer colleagues and see which are the amendments you want to use. So this working with the template, it has a, let's say, a time, let's say stage, let's say in a way it may take 1 minute or may take 2 weeks in order to agree on the changes, right? Because the upload part, it will take only 1 minute. So let me upload this template. I will have to, I think, log in again because I'm kicked out. So let me log in again. Remember, I just saved my template and I'm going to contracts. I'm going to upload a contract. No, I'm not going to upload a contract. Why? Because it's not coming from SRM. You see? So it's the contract, let's say the template is not coming from SRM, it's coming from the dashboard, let's say. So this upload contract file button is not the one I want to use. So let me go back. Instead of upload, I'm going to click on contract request, and there you see template. Here I will upload the template. So here I have to browse for the template I have been just working with. So it's in modification of contracts templates. Template session 2, I just was created 3 minutes ago. Select. And then click on submit. The request will be submitted, continue. And then if everything works fine, I will have here a CTR, a contract request number that I can follow up in my dashboard. You see that the contract request now it's 1000107 has been submitted successfully. Let me go to the contracts tab and double check here. It's vehicles. I changed 9 lines. 9 of them are under process, and before PD approves, probably Gianluca's team will have to process the request. Remember that they will see the template, everything works fine. And if everything works fine, I will have to approve from as a PD buyer. So I may want to change my... So 2 things, Gianluca, can you please, whenever you verify this load, can you change my role to, I think it's contract manager, or as a PD, let's say, as a PD buyer, so I can approve. And in the meantime, Elena, I don't know if you can
Daniel,
give me a little bit feedback on the comments.
Daniel?
Yes, Gianluca?
Yeah. Just refresh the page. You should be able.
Okay, thank you. So you see, thank you, Gianluca. You see the contract manager here. I have another role, different tabs. So if I go here to the contracts, let me go clear to this contract request. I think it was 1007, wasn't it? With 9 items here. So I go to CTR here, and I will be able to approve at the line item level. Remember what Elena did yesterday, or I can just approve the whole thing in one shot, or I can export to Excel all these different lines to share with other colleagues, or for me to understand much better from another perspective in Excel what I'm going to, which are the changes, let's say. So if I go to the line info, still I think we still have to wait up until our colleagues in MDM make this request waiting PD approval. You see, still it's 0. Under process is 9 because MDM team has not yet taken action. Okay, somewhere they are doing that as we are speaking. So, so don't worry, Gianluca, as you're doing, any question, any comment, Elena, please, over to you.
Yes, Danny, there are a couple of questions. One is how to inactivate a line without creating a new one. For example, if we want to, if you did the example a little bit earlier, but if you can repeat it, if there are some lines that have to be temporarily blocked because the vendor cannot provide them. So we need to prevent shopping carts to be raised against these lines. Another, okay, yes, that was the question. The other has been answered.
Thank you, Elena. So I'm opening the template now, so you'll see what I did, but you'll see which is in the drop down how you can block the lines. So this is the template. Remember what I did? It's in line number 4. Here, what I did is to block. Elena, can you mute, please? There we go. Thank you. What I did is I selected block. So if you select any of these lines and you in the drop down select the option block, that line will be blocked, and as Elena was saying before, will prevent requisitioners to raise any shopping cart against this line item. So it's easy to block 1 or 2 lines. It's as easy as just selecting block. There are other actions, as I did in the change product ID or change product category, when automatically, because you're doing so, the template is blocking that line and creating another one with any information. Okay.
And here, Danny, just before you move out, just an observation on the line numbers. The first ones we have from the ones that have been, let's say, exported from SRM, they begin with 1, 2, 3, up to 6. Then the ones that are created in the template begins with the number 10,000. So.
Yeah, exactly, right there. Yes, I just highlighting that. It's exactly the ones created once you are using the template. That was a good one, Elena. Are, let's say, tagged with this 10001, 1002, and that will be like a new code. So you can check in a click of an eye. You can check which ones are being created by the template and which ones are not. So let me go back to the dashboard and refresh. You see, thank you, Gianluca. You'll see that now MDM has taken action, and those 9 line items are waiting PD approval. So now I'm PD. So I will check my request number, and you'll see that I can approve at the line item info, or I can approve the whole thing in one shot. So let me just approve in one shot. So I'm okay. Let's say from the PD perspective, these 2, the contract line items has been approved successfully. Basically in a nutshell, I changed 2 product IDs. I blocked another one. I changed conditions of another 2. It's okay. So let me go back and see in my, let's say, dashboard that these 9 lines are pending load. So now let's say MDM team will take a look at the request and we'll do the load. In the meantime, let me go back to the presentation. So
Daniel,
we'll see where we are. Yes, Gianluca?
yes, just one answer to one question before. So this is the moment where we expect that the buyer will change the status to the contract and put the contract into modify. I can't remember the status name exactly. So until now, all the operations are done exactly while the contract is up and running. But at this moment, once the buyer is approving the request in the dashboard, should at the same time change the contract status so that we are allowed to import the changes that they have requested.
Thank you, Gianluca. That was a very important point. So I'm highlighting exactly the stage of our, let's say, modification of contracts. But as Gianluca was saying, now the PD has to go to SRM and change, let's say, the status of this contract while the MDM guys are, generating the load and uploading that into production. Okay, so that was an important point. Now PD, as I approved the request, excuse me, and then PD has to change, let's say, the status of the contract in SRM. MDM generates a data load, and eventually PD will approve and release the contract. The new contract, let's say, already modified with all these changes that I did in the template. And from there, we can start using the contract and start raising the shopping carts against the active lines already modified. Okay, so let me refresh again and see what's the status of my, let's see, contract manager. So it was 107. So let's say I'm the PD, and I see, if I want to just check, I see that the nine lines are pending load. So in case that, remember what the question yesterday on the time frame, how long would it take for a contract modification or created a new contract? Will take that, depend on the SLA. We discussed, but that's a business discussion. But eventually, depending on the workload, the number of contracts to be modified, that will take some time. But the good thing, remember what Elena mentioned in the kickoff BTC, and I think even in the very first day, there are 4 or 5 like added values in the whole this process. One of them for sure is have an extra support from the MDM team in BTC, from Gianluca's team. They will be able to follow up on request to see what's wrong in case that there is a problem in the contract, and you will be able to liaise with them in order to see the status on how long it's going to take for a particular contract to be loaded into production. Remember that part, that extra support, that extra hand that you have throughout the process is there, and MDM team is taking care of it. So let me go back to the presentation, and because we are just finishing, remember that here the MDM team is going to load the file into SRM. When that's done, the buyer or the module role, let's say 03 procurement buyer, will release the contract as Elena did yesterday, and then we will be able to start using this contract upon that released. Okay. So in case that, because it's still we still have 15 minutes, and I don't want to, we already saw, how that the release is done in SRM, and you probably know much better than us how it's done. I'm going to stop here. And as you can see, there is a discussion / wrap up. There are several points that I think Robert would like to convey and discuss with you related to the documentations, to the job aid, and eventually some exercises that will be available for you. So if there are no further comments or questions in the chat, Elena, I will pass the floor or give the floor to Robert, if he's online. Over to you, Robert.
Hi, Daniel. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, maybe I'll just make some general remarks in closing, and then we can refer to some other specifics. So firstly, just generally speaking, the whole idea of this initiative is to make it easier to upload contract line item information, basically. So there's still many points perhaps on the PD side about how certain data is specified, who does what, and we don't, put it this way, this isn't a panacea, that this new initiative won't solve every single problem, but we're trying to help solve the challenges that exist in the basic performance and the length of time it takes to enter and create line item information, particularly when there's a high volume. So we also too hope that by having the template and having a sort of common currency of information amongst ourselves, that basically PD, technical experts, and ourselves in the data team can communicate better and have a set of data we can use to exchange information and to work together to try and both create better contracts and in doing so, ensuring we have the correct product IDs created. I don't know the extent to which this looks daunting, or the template looks complex, or what sort of challenges people feel they may have, but we really encourage you to try and use this and to contact us with any questions, especially when you're doing it for the first time. If you're trying to, create a new contract, put everything you need in the template. If you hit a roadblock, please contact us. We're happy to help. It's in all of our interests, I think, to get this running. And as I said, the idea is that we can more quickly and more accurately create contracts. As said, just to know, things like policy questions, BI, how you specify a quantity, how this are not really addressed by this. We've noted all of your questions, and we will endeavor to provide some answers where we feel it's appropriate for us to answer. And in other cases, we'll say, please refer to your colleagues, your supervisor, or whatever to get some answers. All of the questions that have been raised during the 2 days, we have sort of cut and pasted out of the chat and put into an Excel file. And over the next day or so, we're going to provide answers for those, and we will circulate those to everybody who is on the invite, basically, or who's included in the training. So hopefully we'll be able to get you some answers, and you'll have something for reference. In terms of the dashboard, we are going to, based on the information we are provided by PD, LD, and OICT, we will set you up with the access within the dashboard, and we will send you an email when it has been created. So if you're in PD, you should have the role where you can submit and approve, and if you're a technical expert, you should be able to still submit and view and use the dashboard for this. I think that's more or less everything from that point of view. In terms of documentation, we will send you again today the presentation. We will also send you the job aid. These will be posted online or on iSeek, I believe on the training site, which I think maybe is SharePoint actually. We will put it on the MMDM page we maintain, so you should be able to access these later. Just to help maybe familiarize yourself with the template in a sort of low-key way, we will send out an email with a couple of templates where you can basically complete a small number of lines by way of an exercise, just to give you an idea of the look and feel. So we'll send that out to you. If you can fill it in and then respond to us, we will review your response and send you any comments. As I say, the idea is just to get a little bit of an idea of what the templates are like to use. Yes, as said, your dashboard access is available. And if you have any questions, both immediately or indeed as you're trying to set up your first contracts, please contact us. As I say, the idea is that this is hopefully to make everybody's life easier, particularly for the bigger contracts or when you have a larger number of updates to do. You are still, this doesn't replace what you currently have. This is, shall we say, an extra tool in your portfolio that you can use. So if you have a one-line change to do to a contract, or if you contract with 2 lines, and it's easier for you to just go and create it in SRM, of course you can still do that. So I think that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions they would like to voice at this point? I said all the ones in the chat we've recorded, and we will send you responses to those. But if there's anything anybody would like to raise now in the general forum, please do so. Okay, well, I think we have plenty of questions in the chat, and as said, we'll provide. So it just remains. Thank you very much to everybody for sorry.
You know, sorry, Robert. Before we give final thank you, just want to basically what you have said. It's in the screen right now, with all the exercise, the job aid and training presentations, and the Q&A will be sent to you right after this session. The Q&A we will work it out, but the documentation for sure and the job aid in PDF in 5 minutes from now. And I just want to drag your attention to this. To production. Remember, this is the contract that I modified. Remember that I included 2 lines, 2 new lines for a new product ID, and I changed the conditions of a particular line items. Remember the percentage that I used, 3%, 4%, and the validity of time. Okay, so just for your reference, you know that eventually we completed the end-to-end, thanks to the MDM team as well. And before you give the final closing, I want to thank you all for your activeness during these 2 days. So we hope you liked it. We hope you you know, found these 2 or 4 hour session, you know, practical for you. And we want to thank Luca and his team in Brindisi for the change of information and support, and of course Robert for overseeing and governing the whole process. So thank you very much, Robert. And thanks again, Elena, as well. You know, it's a team effort of the 2 of us. So eventually tomorrow we will do the same sessions for Entebbe. So we will start with the contract creation, and then we will move on to the modification of already existing contracts. So I will now give the floor. I don't know, Elena, if you want to say something, and then Robert, and then it's all from my part. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It has been a pleasure having you in the session. Hopefully, it's not the last one, as we have, I think, a lot to learn from you guys working in TV and ICTV, and hopefully we can be of your benefit as well. Thank you.
Okay, and yes, just to add my thanks also. Thank you very much to Danielle and Elena. They've done a great job the last couple of days talking you through it. I mean, fundamentally, this should be quite straightforward, but it takes just a little bit of getting used to at the start. So as I say, please work with us to the extent needed, so that we can get started, and then hopefully this will be something that you use frequently. As I say, particularly for the larger contracts, so you don't have any of the frustration using SRM that we understand you do. One final point, I noticed a question here. As said, for the dashboard, we'll provide access to everybody who's on the training. If there's anybody who needs it in addition to that, please just send an email to the email address that is there, the DOS MDM team email, and just request. This is also mentioned in the job aid, that this is the mechanism for requesting access. So thank you very much indeed to everybody. It's been great having you all for the last couple of days. Thanks again to the training team and to Gianluca. And we look forward to hearing from you, and we look forward to working with you to update and create contract lines going forward.
Thank you.